Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, and I want to talk about an important, very important truth that I think we're reaching. And let me put it this way: an understanding of our conflict situation in the world for America, okay, and an opportunity for Vivek Ramaswamy to provide clarity. So basically, what this video is about today is the biggest issue the world has today that America is always on point to solve. This is there's all right. As I talk, I just hit so many points. I want to address them, but let me get all the way there. The biggest issue the world has today, and America is on point to fix this problem, is an absolute shattering of universal recognition of sovereignty. Countries are no longer acknowledging sovereignty of other nations, and that is the problem Vivek Ramaswamy actually has to fix as the 2024 U.S. president. So first of all, what can Vivek actually provide? Well, he can provide clarity. Okay, so as a candidate, what can he provide? Right. So as a president, he can do a million things. Right. He can literally, as a president, he can take us to Mars. Right. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah, but the reality is, candidate, he's limited. Right. He can promise. That's a big deal because it sets direction. Right. It forces conversation. It forces other candidates to take positions. Right. It also calls out the current established, President Joseph Biden for not doing X, for whatever he's promising. Promises are not small. They're a big, big, big deal. Unless you're Donald Trump and everybody knows every word coming out of your mouth is a lie, then nothing you say matters, right? Like President Trump doesn't really matter. He's not he doesn't have any relationship with the truth. His words don't matter. Only fools believe anything he says, right? Yeah. I guess there is value in President Donald Trump. If you are planning on voting him for him, understand you're a fool. There you go. He is valuable as a filter for fool. Right? I think that's helpful. Right? So there you go. There's the one good thing about President Donald Trump. Right? Like all of his followers, you can just put him under fool. Right? It's the very adequate label for anybody who would believe a person who has proven themselves 100 times over to be nothing but an adamant, vehement liar. Right? He just lies constantly. He is bad. Right? All right. And that's not debatable. If you don't think I'm right, you didn't read his book. You didn't read the book he literally wrote 15 years before he became president, where he literally said, "I lie constantly to the people who should trust me." Right? I can't believe anybody would ever vote for him. All right, so let's get all the way there. So the issue we have today, Vivek Ramaswamy can put forward promises. That as a candidate, that's something, right? But he can also provide clarity. We live in an incredibly complex world, right? And what we need to do we need Vivek to do this, right? We need all the candidates to do. Take in all the complexity, inhale all the complexity, right? Breathe it in, right? And spit out a kernel, right? Spit out a lozenge. They have to take it all in, and then they have to produce something that we can consume, right? And and what I'm saying there is, I'm convinced of this, right? If you talk about anything at too high of a complexity, nothing you're saying will matter to anyone, right? We have to understand all the complexity, but we have to communicate simply, right? We have to communicate with clarity. And that means you leave some issues on the table. You leave some facets on the table. You leave some elements on the table. We can't process it all, right? And this is very, very important to understand. I think people don't really get how critical it is that you understand all the complexities, but when you communicate and you say, I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to take this action, those decisions and those actions are absolutely critically communicated. And I will say, President Donald Trump, in 2016, he was a powerful, intelligent, courageous man, right? None of those things are true anymore. He's just an 80-year-old that's got one foot on a banana peel and one in a coffin, right? It's he should be on a porch sipping tea, right? And you're like, oh, Scott, that's a little. Hey, it's 15 years after we as a nation have decided that we will pay you for 15 years not to work, right? Like it's not. It's just science, right? It's just looking at what happened to Dianne Feinstein, right? All right, let's get all the way there. So basically, the world is in crisis right now, and here's the other issue is, and America's in two wars, and you're like, Scott, America isn't boots on the ground in any war. We're dollars on the ground, and that's another thing that we as Americans need to start, deciding for ourselves. Actually, yeah, deciding for ourselves, right? We say when we're at war because we cannot trust Congress or the government, right? They'll just say, oh, well, we want to go to war, but we don't want to call it a war, so we'll slap some name on it, right? But this is Scott Garibay. I'm telling you right now, if we're dollars on the ground, we're at war. Okay? We don't have to be boots on the ground to be. Boots on the ground is just a different phase of the war, right? We're dollars on the ground, two separate wars. Ukraine's one, right? The other one's it's too contentious to even talk about, right? And I try to not to talk about it because I don't want to, I want this channel to be about signal, not noise, right? I don't want to repeat a bunch of right-wing talking points on the other war we're in. It is so contentious, like it's really bad. I've never seen a hot button issue at this level before, except one or two, right? But the real problem we're dealing with right now is sovereignty. And you could tell this, right? So the reason we're talking today is TLDR Global News channel right here on YouTube did a fantastic video on Venezuela. And the question, it's put to the question: is Venezuela going to annex Guyana? So Venezuela and Guyana are South American countries, both sovereign nations, and it looks like, basically, just to be clear, Russia annexed Crimea, right? And then essentially, and again, annex, that's a fancy word for invasion. So they're asking, is Venezuela going to invade Guyana, right? And the reason why this is happening is President Donald Trump is like, hey, every dictator out there, every villain group out there, get to work, right? Like you got my entire 4 years of administration. You can do whatever evil you want, right? And he has invited country after country after country to say, I no longer respect your sovereignty. Why is this a problem? Well, this is America, right? At any point, Mexico, if this continues, the problem can come home, right? And what we're trying to stop is we're trying to stop a world in which we have to start wondering, are we going to be invaded by Mexico or are we going to be invaded by Canada, right? Before President Biden, those would be ridiculous questions, right? Now, no sovereign nation can assume their sovereignty will be respected by any neighbor, right? Because President Joseph Biden is making it a villain's smorgasbord, saying, do your evil now. Soon Republicans will be in power, so you have to get your evil done now, right? And that's exactly what it's become, right? And so I think TLDR is, I listened there, and I do think Venezuela will attempt to annex Guyana, right? Which I think is horrible. And I think it's amazing reporting on the part of TLDR to ask the question, because it allows us, because then we're not surprised when these horrific actions happen, right? It's truly astounding. So I think this is really interesting, and I think Vivek can clarify this and say the problem the world has right now is that there has been a breakdown in the value of being a sovereign nation. Before President Biden, national sovereignty was respected globally. Now, national sovereignty is not respected anywhere, and every American can legitimately question if we will be invaded by Mexico or by Canada tomorrow. Not because Mexico or Canada are aggressive, but because no national sovereignty is safe. We're seeing this again and again and again. Group after group saying, we don't respect your sovereignty as a nation. We're going to try to take your land, right? And President Biden has opened a free-for-all for villainy, for global villainy, and changing of national sovereignty, right? So Vivek can come forward and say, this is the actual problem we're having. And now that I have clarified the actual problem for you, this is how I'll solve it. And I think the way Vivek solves it is says, listen, we have the best military in the world. And anyone, any country that even questions another country's sovereignty we will be boots on the ground in your country faster than you can say what just happened. Faster than you could say America what, right? Because we will be up in your business. This business of national sovereignty being questioned is over the day I'm president. That's how Vivek Ramaswamy can set clarity on this issue. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.